Welcome to Manhwa Caster. Our story begins with Ragna is the smelliest loser nerd who was labeled as the worst one and couldn't even become a dragon hunter like the rest until he magically was able to awaken his future self, unlocking a special, unique power and becoming the strongest dragon hunter, even killing the dragon god for revenge. In a world full of dragons, humans seek protection through dragon hunters to make a living dragon hunter willingly take on quests and kill dragons using two methods, either by freezing the dragon's heart using a silver sword or through sunlight to burn it down to a crisp. Begins as our main protagonist, Ragna, is on a quest to slay dragons with his pink-haired friend Lenica. During the quest, Ragna starts to have a vision in which he sees himself way into the future, slaying a dragon without any weapon in his vision. He sees that even with so much strength, his future self was still hungry for more power, and before he could see any further, he was interrupted by a dragon, which lunged towards him to protect the daydreaming brat from dying. Leo jumps in and flexes off her dragon-slaying skills, living up to her title as the Aeus Dragon Hunter. After extracting the dragon's heart, Ragna and Leo waited till morning, and they let the dragon's body burn in the sunlight as they froze the dragon's heart using a silver needle. After keeping the heart as evidence, Leo and Ragnar returned back to their town. Ronabar is in a kingdom called Lee. After reaching the town, Ragna turns in the dragon heart and receives a huge sum of money as a reward. Immediately after receiving gold, Leo and Ragna spent their money at a diner nearby and had food. After the tiring quests, moreover, since Ragna was older than the 12-year-old Leo, Ragna took a picture of Leo, documenting her every day as she approached 18. Dropping from nearby Sykes Char likes the second strongest dragon hunter in Lace after Leo started to insult Ragna out of jealousy, since he was jealous of a loser like Ragna being friends with Leo the prodigy. Annoyed by the insults, Leo defended Ragna as she unsheathed her silver sword and brandished it towards Sykes, demanding him to shut his mouth. And seeing that she had gathered attention from everyone in the diner, Leo then began to yap about who wanted to join her in a journey to kill endless dragons. Scared, nobody dares to lift up their arm except Ragna, who swears to accompany Leo till his very last breath in front of everyone later. That day, as Leo is asleep, Ragna decides to head out and practice his swordsman skills. During his practice, Ragna suddenly hears the whisper of an old man, which causes him to have a vision in which he sees that he will lose everything that he cared about, including Leo. The next day, since there were no quests available at the guild, everyone planned to head east to a town called Don Eru. Overjoyed, Leo starts to plan for adventures, but she immediately starts to worry as she sees Ragna, who had dark circles under his eyes as he was unable to forget the sight of Leo's death in his vision. To comfort Ragna, Leo reassures him that he will become strong someday and that he is not completely useless, since he has some hidden powers that we were waiting to get triggered. By hearing Leo, Ragna start to have a flashback in which he remembered that he was a curse since everyone who took him in for care were killed by dragons. That is, until Leo partnered up with him the next day. The guild is filled with confused dragon hunters since Don Eru has been invaded and destroyed by a horde of dragons overnight, and as everyone was debating about what had happened, Leo was shocked to see Ragnar's pale face, and she hurried to the gallery only to find town raw engulfed in flames. Witnessing the flames, Ragnar panicked as he knew that his vision was slowly becoming a reality, but before he could stop, Leo jumped off of the gallery and hurried to stop the dragons from causing even more casualties to prevent Leo's death. Ragna hurried to fight off a superior dragon which had a human-like figure, but within L's strong powers, finding an opportunity when Sykes had distracted the superior dragon, Ragna jumped and tried to kill the dragon from its back, but it completely backfired as he got eaten into the netherworld. Seeing Ragna fly across the sky like a Roblox avatar, Leo jumped in to fight the superior dragon, and she tasked Sykes to aid Ragna, who was drowning in the nearby river, as Ragna sank into the depths of the river. Ragna finally started to see his future clearly, in which he saw that after Leo would die, he would go on a never-ending journey to kill all dragons, and he would make new friends and lose them too as he saw the complete outcome of Leo's death. He suddenly started to see the old man from his previous vision, and he realized that the old man was none other than his future self. To change the horrible fate of Ragna, the future self Ragna lended his powers to present Ragna, granting him immensely strong powers, while before he killed off Leo, the superior dragon revealed that his name was Grim W, and he was the lowest-ranking superior dragon. Moreover, he revealed that the superior dragons followed the god of dragons and recently, due to his favorite bakery closing down as it got robbed, He is angered and has led off an army of dragons on the humans after all the chit-chat, as Grimwald prepared to kill off Leo. Ragna appeared out of nowhere. After he had taken care of the dragons nearby using silverine art, he was scared by the radiating energy from Ragna Grimm. Wel immediately transformed into his dragon form, but it was of no use since Ragna easily killed the superior dragon. With one single blow, the future timeline was altered, and Ragna immediately ran over to Leo and hugged her as he cried out loud the next day. Ragna finds himself in a bed with Leo and Sykes by his side, believing that Ragna was a fraud and had been hiding his powers the whole time. Sykes demands an explanation from Ragna, but due to fatigue, Ragna ignores Sykes and goes to sleep. The feat could attempt to wake him up, but he is suddenly interrupted by an earthquake caused by the forest, which was closing into the town somewhere else. A chef and his 3 waitresses trembled in fear as they presented lamp pie to a queso lookalike superior dragon called Taff, the 8th seat dragon, with anything food-related. The superior dragon gobbled down lamb pies and proceeded to ask Yap about the taste of them. Afraid that he wasn't presented with Gordon Ramsay's beef Wellington, the fatso decided to gobble down the chef and the 3 waitresses as he exclaimed that they tasted far better than the dish they had presented, while Sykes I wandered around Rona Bar and found out that a dragon that was immune to sunlight was behind the forest, getting pulled towards the town, whereas Leo, who was busy taking out the dragon's tentacles, spots Ragna being held by the tentacles and hurries to save him. But she instantly realizes that one of the dragon's tentacles was about to deliver a fatal blow to her. Sensing that Leo was in danger, Ragna awakens from his sleep and launches a strong blast wave of silverine, freezing nearly half of the dragon tentacles. Shocked by how instantly Ragna dealt with the issue, Leo tries to call Ragna over, but Ragna is locked in and starts to emit the silverine aura while Naruto is running towards Tigta upon meeting the superior dragon Ragna, who instantly sliced and threw his face after dealing with the superior dragon. Ragna starts to rage and makes it his resolution to kill all dragons in order to protect his beloved Leo. After pondering about killing all dragons for a while, snaps out after hearing a waitress's voice whom he instantly recognizes as Crimson the Dragon Monarch from his vision. Upon recognizing the waitress, Ragna asks the girl if she was Crimson, but the girl denies it. Feeling confident in himself, Ragna insisted and told her that her name was Eliza Yorkshire, a 14-year-old, and she was a dragon. He also dropped the biggest bombshell of the whole century as he reveals that the girl was in fact male. Finding Ragna autistic for making such wild assumptions about her, the girl slaps him for calling her a dragon and a male. Before matters got worse, Leo interrupted them and asked Ragna to head back since the dragon superior's hunt was already over. Just as they turn to head back, the superior comes back for round 2, as he lunges towards Leo, but Ragna easily helps Leo evade the attack. To end the fight, Ragna uses a raw sin gun attack, obliterating the dragon into pieces. After finishing the superior dragon, he then tells Leo that she has to leave with the townspeople as Ron is now a complete battlefield, refusing to leave Ragna's side. Leo lashes out at Ragna, swings her sword at him, which he parries with his finger, putting Leo to sleep. After a while, Leo wakes up only to find herself being carried by Psyche away from her along with many other residents back to Ragna. Ragna insists Crimson come and fight dragons with him, which she obviously shows reluctance to gain her support. Ragna then yaps about how he is good at household tasks and how he helps and can become a servant for Crimson fainting due to fever during his unconsciousness. Ragna once again starts having a vision of his future self. After meeting up with Crimson after a long time of being unconscious, Ragna wakes up and tries to explain his vision to Crimson, which takes place 20 years into the future. Just as Ragna was explaining his vision, they both spot a group of dragons flying towards the townspeople, and they both rush to fight it. After catching up with the dragons, Reiji uses one of his silverine art attacks as he pierces a dragon with a sword and freezes it. After finally realizing Ragna's true power, Crimson finally admits that she really is a dragon monarch as she vomits her slime and transforms into her true form. After finishing her transformation, she finishes off all the remaining dragons. A second after dealing with the dragons, Crimson hands a poison to Ragna and tells him that she is willing to work with him only if he will drink the poison. Adding on, she reveals that the poison will only work if he feels any malice towards Crimson. Without any hesitation, Ragna drinks the poison instantly, which surprises Crimson, and he asks why Ragna wants to kill all dragons. Hearing Crimson's question, Ragnar reveals that he wants to protect what his future self couldn't, and for that very reason, he wanted to form an alliance with her, while a group of people are seen fleeing away from a dragon who turned out to be the third-seat superior dragon Desus Tiaro. Desus had embodied the wind and had the ability to create rapid tornadoes using this unique ability of his. A bunch of women inside his tornado and sliced off their bodies piece by piece, using the wind as his blade while he was slicing off women in his tornado, but luckily some of the residents of the town nearby escaped Deus's grasp and ran off. As they were making a run for it, they got interrupted by the sudden appearance of regular dragons, which they try their best to fight off the humans. However, the dragons were able to outstrength the humans, but before matters got worse, Ragnar and Crimson came to their rescue, making his appearance. Ragnar easily finishes off all the small fried dragons and they both talk to the townspeople, asking them about their safety. Upon meeting with the townspeople, Crimson decides to fake a conversation, telling the townspeople that Ragnar was the great dragon reaper and Crimson himself. A mage added to Crimson revealed that he can use magic in this world, and this magic is only used by some dragons and a handful of humans. Moreover, to flex on the townspeople, Crimson revealed the slime used by him, which appears in its human form and could talk. Seeing the magic slime alive, the townspeople exclaimed, "Magic is amazing and pure." Fascination seeing magic for the first time with their very own eyes, the leader of the townspeople, Michael, approached Ragnar and Crimson to ask for their help with the third seat of Desus Troy, who had made his way to the land of Tor. Upon hearing about the Desus Troy, Ragnar prepares to leave to fight it, but he suddenly falls head first due to muscle fatigue. Seeing Ragnar unable to move, Crimson initially refuses to help, but seeing that the townspeople were willing to give up their weapons just to get this dragon killed, Crimson decides to lend a hand. After a while, Crimson hands a silver sword to Michael and prepares them for battle at Tier as she uses a key to unlock a room filled with modern-day weapons. Seeing the arsenal of weapons in front of them, the townfolks are surprised to see the variety of weapons. Moreover, Crimson also elaborates on how the bullet laced with Ragnar's silverine will be used to take down later that day. Ragnar also reveals her curse to Ragnar by shooting herself and resurrecting after shooting herself in the head. She fed her carcass to her slime as a reward for giving Intel the superior 3's position. Sometime later, the townspeople test out their newly acquired weapons at a gun range after a lot of practicing. Finally, at dawn, the time finally comes when the townspeople are assembled and make their way to Desus Troy and on as they approach Desus as Crimson announces their arrival on a megaphone and roasts the third-seat dragon by calling him a beta male. Hearing someone insult his ass, Desus goes on a yapathon on how he isn't lonely and how he earned his spot. As the third-seat superior dragon witnesses the superior dragon, the townspeople start to feel afraid due to the sheer size of the tornado, but they remain motivated, remembering their restless training in the past 2 days. After taunting Desus, Crimson sped up as the dragon angrily drifted towards them, and thanks to Crimson's silverine-laced ammo, the wind started to freeze, which slowed the tornado. However, this angered the dragon, but the townspeople kept it together and kept on firing at Desus as Desus kept on insulting the dragon hunters while being shot at after a while. He is hit by the silverine battle arts done by Ragnar, which knock him out of the tornado. He couldn't believe that he was finally being defeated to end the battle. The townspeople finish him off with a silverine sword and a few bullets, along with the help of the sunlight. After defeating Desus, the townspeople are sent on their way with resources, and Ragnar begins to understand how strong and sharp Crimson's plan to lure Desus to the sunlight was while Crimson pulls out a radio and plays a broadcast by the Defense Ministry of Lee Kingdom ordering all citizens to evacuate to the royal capital, which seemed like a setup for both Crimson and Ragnar 5 days prior to current events. King of Lee Femli was visited by the first-seated monarch Dragon Ultimate as she breached the barrier and froze time to relay God's message about the fate of the kingdom. Upon meeting up with the King Ultimate revealed that she was going to finish off the kingdom and told that the death of mankind in the kingdom was inevitable because God had said so. And seeing that there was no room left for negotiation, King Firmed used the solar safeguard system to try and kill Ultimate Tia, but he fails miserably as the attack was deflected by a superior dragon and Ultimate Tia is protected by the first-seated superior dragon called Neville and the 7-seat superior dragon. After a while, Boris resurrected the king by reversing time and finally saying that God wants the end of this kingdom and there isn't any way around it. After Ultimate Tia declared an attack on the kingdom, the king announced a large-scale evacuation. Upon the evacuation alert, the citizens started to evacuate the borders due to the increasing dragon attacks. However, the number of refugees in the capital was reaching a whole new level. Meanwhile, everyone was worried, but the king didn't care since he believed that the survival of humans was a cause since Ultimate Tia had declared her attack on mankind. On the other hand, Ultimate Tia is worried by the deaths of Grim Weltdisses and Temigtaf by unknown killers, along with the death of Superior Dragon Doria at the hands of Fima's daughter Princess Daria. Avenging Doria's death, Ultimate sends Superior Dragons Terra and Alto while Kamui to kill Steria, and she also dispatches Superior Dragon Wall to Camus to investigate the other deaths, while Ragna dreams of a future Ragna memory where he was captured by the Superior Dragons in that dream. Tia was so impressed by Ragna that she began transforming him into a dragon, revealing that all superior dragons were once humans, and they were all transformed into dragons by Ultimate Tia. Scared of the nightmare, Ragna awakens disgusted by Ultimate pretending her massacres were a kindness to humans, despite her being the strongest living dragon. Crimson decides it is vital. Die next as they decide to head to Capital City. Upon reaching the capital city, Ragna discovers that without Leo, actually suffers from a fear of crowds, whereas Crimson is confused that she expected the city to be overflowing with 2 million refugees, yet it was barely half full, meaning that the superior dragons had already begun killing humans in large numbers using an unknown method that doesn't draw attention to investigate more. Crimson leaves Ragna with his slime, and he orders Ragna to not talk to anyone and definitely do not do anything reckless in case he spots Ultimate Tia. After a while, Crimson visits Golem. His servant who infiltrated the army is Colonel Rowan, and the shapeshifter Chima to inform them that Ragna will attempt to assassinate Ultimate Tia, while Ragna witnesses the army parading with the dragon corpses as proof they are winning the war. But he knows this is propaganda to keep the citizens pacified during this parade. He suddenly spots Ultimate Tia within the crowd, and he fights off this urge to take her out himself since he had promised not to do so. But due to holding his anger back, Ragna's face turned red, which caused Garner Ultimate's attention, while Crimson explains her plans for Ragna and Ultimate with her allies when one of her allies think it's unwise to challenge Ultimate Tia because of her time control magic. In response, Crimson reassures them since he believes that Ragna is capable of defeating Ultimate Tia, while Ragna encounters Ultimate Tia and struggles with whether he should fight her or not while Crimson's henchmen bicker about who is better than whom. Male Lackey shows Crimson footage of Ultimate Tia's time controlling powers after analyzing the footage closely. Crimson reveals that she knows a way around Ultimate's time control magic back at Ragna's limb, which helps Ragna quell his urge to fight Ultimate Tia by telling Ultimate Tia to pay Ragna no mind, and moreover, the boy accompanying Ultimate Tia tells Ragna in slime that she's helping him find his parents. Baffling Ragna as he couldn't believe a superior dragon is helping a human, suddenly the superior dragon Neville arrives and gives Ragna a mean-spirited look, while one of the Crimson's henchmen realizes Ultimate cannot pause and rewind time, simultaneously earning her praise from Crimson. Believes Ragna can exploit this weakness to kill Ultimate Tia in a one-on-one confrontation. After making this discovery, Crimson asks her henchmen to assist Ragna by fending off Ultimate Tia's buddies Neville and Borgias. While contemplating his decision to let Ultimate Tia be, Ragna asks Slime to contact Crimson and tell them that he encountered her in town. Back to Crimson. Crimson ponders over his henchman's ill will toward Ragna as he feels Ragna is under the palm of his hands. However, when Slime informs him through the device of Ragna's betrayal, Crimson is shocked, while Ultimate Tia and Neville help the boy find his family, and she thanks Neville for his help. Spectating from afar, Ragna hears Ultimate Tia tell Neville that the boy's family will perish soon, confirming Ragna's belief that all superior dragons are menaces. Enraged, Ragna confronts the two murders occurred before Ultimate Tia's eyes, and now with Ultimate Tia alone, he revealed his intentions to kill her too, and the two engage in a fight. On the other hand, Crimson and the others sense Ragna's power as he uses his knowledge from the future to fight head-to-head with Ultimate Mata despite her rewind time abilities, and moreover, during the parade Ragna starts to have a continuation to his dream where he sees future Ragna stabbing himself with a silverine sword in order to avoid becoming a member of the superior dragons in the dream. Thinking that Ragna had perished, Tia asks Jesus to help her and the others return to the heavens using his wind. Suddenly Slime, Crimson, and Golem arrive, and Crimson observes Ragna's body, realizing that he had frozen his heart to avoid becoming a member of the dragon's bloodline. Seeing his hatred for dragons, Crimson tells Golem to pick up Ragna and return to their back at the present. Crimson is Infuriated that Ragna went against their plans while one of her henchmen reports Ragna's progress in the fight while Ragna battles Ultimate Tia, Nebel interferes, revealing that he hadn't died and had barely survived Ragna's assault before Ultimate Tia perished. She used her trump card time manipulation technique to escape Ragna's waft to save her ass. She reverts time back to the moment when Ragna was attending the parade. At that very moment, Ultimate Tia uses her time-stopping ability and tells Ragna wonders how much of a threat he is to her. Furthermore, she questions why he has a deep hatred toward her despite them not having a long history together. After a while, Tia is shocked as she notices Ragna move and stop time, but before she could investigate any further Nebel attacks, Ragna threw a barrage of punches, seeing that Ragna didn't dodge. Nebel attack. Ultimate Tia thinks that it was her imagination playing tricks on her, and she asks Nebel to stop attacking. Since Ragna's emitting Silverine was harming him, the Ultimate reveals that Ragna's body is still unfazed by his blows, and she believes that they'll need world-shattering magic to harm Ragna, remembering that King Fem had a solar safeguarding attack. Ultimate Tia asks one of her allies to speak with King Fem, and Ultimate Tia also reveals her plans to deal with Ragna's allies after they've defeated Ragna during her time freeze awakens and approaches Ultimate Tia as if the time stop had no effect on him. Scared she doesn't know how he's moving, since she's only allowed people who share blood with her to move in her close time to protect the Ultimate Nebula, strongest barrier, but it has no effect since Ragna easily breaks the barrier with his head before he ends both of them. Ragna falls to the ground due to using too much of his future powers as he starts to bleed out from his eyes and knows to kill Ragna as soon as they could. The superior dragons forced King Fema to use the solar light beam to dispose of Ragna, however. The beam doesn't work as Crimson, and their allies appear by Ragna's side upon reaching the battlefield. Crimson looks at Ragna with disappointment for disobeying their orders, seeing that more allies had stepped up into the battlefield. Pleads with Ultimate Tia to use her time-stopping ability, but since she had been scarred by the sight of Ragna breaking the rules of her time freeze, she starts tweaking. Seeing that Ultimate Tia was trembling, Crimson realizes that he must double down and break Ultimate Tia's morale, and for that very reason, Crimson detonates several bombs across the Li. By doing so, Crimson exposes Altma's false sense of security to the kingdom's people and tries to bank on Ultimate Tia is using her remaining power to rewind time to fix it. However, before Ultimate Tia could use her time reversal, Nebel warns Ultimate Tia not to use her remaining energy. Seeing that Nebel has spoiled his plan, Crimson decides to retreat and meets up with Golem, who is posted nearby. Upon meeting up with Golem, Crimson scolds him for his failures regarding the plan since Golem hadn't placed bombs on the clock tower before taking his leave to the hidden dimension. Crimson orders Golem to monitor the bloodlines and movements and to dispose of someone's body while Nebel feels that he has failed Ultimate badly, and he starts having a flashback in which he remembers a meeting with Borgias about maturation and its relation to their bloodline. According to the flashback, reveals that the Nebel will serve as the progenitor's backbone one day and should be proud of that status back at the present Nebula. Powers up and plans to find Crimson and Ragna in order to destroy them for the sake of her master. Seeing that a mere superior dragon was challenging his hidden dimension, Crimson finds it laughable and is confident that Nebel won't find him and his allies due to the way he constructed the space. However, suddenly Ragna awakens and wants to finish off the Ultimate Tea for good. As he starts to emit Silverine, seeing that Ragna's Silverine is cracking her space, Crimson orders Chima to subdue him, but unfortunately, a crack allows Nebel to detect Crimson. After getting spotted, Crimson desperately attempts to flee the area, and he orders Golem to shoot at Nebel, leading to a skirmish between all factions somewhere else. Ali is informed that people entered through her underground teleportation circle. Apparently Crimson and Ragna managed to escape, but ended up in this princess's stronghold, and her advisor Isaac informs her that Ragna is getting medical treatment, while Crimson promises to answer any questions they have for them upon meeting with Princess Steria. Crimson remembers Steria's fantastic battle prowess and her handicaps involving her lack of arms. Crimson loathes Steria because it was difficult to deceive her about matters as she had a gifted eye that could sense aura. Furthermore, contemplates what to do and believes it would be best to cooperate with Steria since their goals aligned. However, after taking the time to ponder, Crimson realizes that he can deceive Steria with his aura manipulation, and he reveals his dragon eye to Steria during the interrogation of Crimson Steria. Steria has a flashback in which she had a meeting with Lieutenant General Pereiro. Apparently, Steria killed Pereiro because he was plotting a coup. done it with a neighboring country. Moreover, she knew he was plotting against their people. Thanks to her aura-sensing abilities in the present, Crimson executes a strategy that'll allow him to fool Steria and avoid her ability despite offering a convincing tale. Steria reads through Crimson's lies and truths to reveal how she caught Crimson's lies. Steria explains her abilities in greater detail to Crimson and reveals that while Crimson's aura's color turned blue, she was telling the truth, and while it turned red, she was lying. However, since Crimson's aura's color was blue, Steria senses something fishy deriving from him as she tells Crimson that she senses a pitch-black mass of death emanating from him. After getting negative vibes from Crimson, Steria orders her men to unsheathe their swords since Crimson was immortal. Crimson accepts his fate, but Ragna steps in to save him. Seeing Ragna, the Rhizosaurus Rex, Steria starts to lose her composure, as she had now found her husband, but in reality, Steria saw Ragna as a walking sword with arms and legs, and apparently she had a thing for walking swords, while at a total loss for words. Steria has a flashback involving her tutor, Nazarena, apparently informed Steria that she's not grounded anymore and must return to the castle due to Steria dedicating time to her wordsmith activities. Nazarena said that her marriage engagement had been called off, and Nazarena is worried because she won't reap the rewards for helping Steria successfully marry someone back at the present. While Steria is infatuated with Ragna, tells them that he and Crimson are willing to cooperate to decide Ragna and Crimson's fate. One of Star's people locks Crimson and Ragna in a jail cell. In the meantime, they thought about their course of action, and with time to spare, Ragna and Crimson used this time to discuss their qualms with each other. After a while, Crimson restores Slime and gives Ragna a breakdown of the situation they're in. Meanwhile, Steria is still deep in her thoughts, fantasizing about a whole fanfic with her husband and seeing Crimson. Completely lost in her thoughts, Nazarena jokingly punches Steria and tells her that she has become incompetent due to falling in love with Ragna. Moreover, Nazarena tells Steria that it's nice that she has found someone to love and reminds her of her achievements. While it's great she's in love, Nazarena says she should remember to fulfill her leadership duties. Reassuring Nazarena, Steria promises to live up to her status, and she will not fail those who trust her with their lives, while Ultimate Tia apologizes to her god for her failures, and to her god, who happens to be her sister, asks her why she failed to protect her. Ultimate awakens from the nightmare, and she realizes that her powers aren't as grandiose as they used to be. While Steria holds a meeting where Christopher and Shin report to Steria is concerned about the dragon activity occurring in the area nearby. And she also wonders what the superior dragon is planning and asks her underling Majorca for updates concerning the teleportation circle. In response, Majorca tells Fu to complete the circle within a day during the meeting. Suddenly, Ragna and Crimson arrive at the meeting, and Steria is still infatuated with Ragna. To help Steria, Crimson promises to provide Steria and her allies with Ragna, who is capable of slaying the superior dragons despite being madly in love with Ragna. Steria, who doesn't trust Crimson in the slightest and refuses to work with them to gain Steria's trust. Crimson tasks Ragna to convince Steria since she already had a crush on him, and it would be easier if Ragna convinced her after Ragna vouched for Crimson's hatred. Steria accepts their help, but she reminds Crimson that she will only be relying on him for intel and that she will be in charge of the planning. Meanwhile, Walla Kamui visits Ultimate Tia, who is still shocked that she can't wield time like she used to. To comfort her, Tia Walla Kamui brings her the head of the man who killed Jesus. Troyes and tries to comfort Ultimate Tia. Seeing the head of the decapitated Ultimate Tia refuses to hear Walu out as she was uncomfortable by the fact that the decapitated man had been killed painfully. Moreover, Walu presented her with a silverine blade reminding her of Ragna to help her understand why she was losing her powers. Walu explains that Ultimate Tia can't control time because she feels defeated, and to restore her control over it, she must forget her fear of Ragna initially. Tia refuses to command Walla Kamui to slay Ragna as she wants to prioritize obliterating the Lace Kingdom to shape the world and to her god's desires. However, after some convincing, Ultimate Tia yields the silverine blade and asks Walt Kamui to bring her Ragna and Crimson's heads. After Ultimate Tia had vented out her willing to take revenge from Ragna and Crimson, the two regrouped with the other superior dragons. Later, Ragna demonstrates and explains his silverine principles to Steria, which she can't understand due to Ragna's godly RIS. Distract herself from Ragna, Steria asks her subordinates to bring all their weapons to Ragna so he can infuse them. with his silverine. While infusing Steria's men's weapons with silverine, Rhaegar recalls a discussion he had with Crimson had apparently suggested that Ragnar infuse their weapons with half of his silverine and keep half for himself. This will allow them to not be completely dependent on the Lee Kingdom's forces. After infusing more warriors' weapons, we cut to a few of Steria's highly skilled subordinates, conversing with each other about the situation. Apparently, two of them are upset while a warrior named Chris says he's okay with the infusion process, since he's got a powerful weapon from it. Chris argues Ragnar's a talented warrior, while another subordinate thinks otherwise, whereas a comrade named Shin challenges Ragnar multiple times to prove his worth. Each time, he gets his ass handed to him. Meanwhile, two twin warriors approach Ragnar and present him with their guns for infusing their bullets with silverine. Suddenly Slime appears and makes a grave mistake by making fun of the girls for looking like dragons to punish Slime. The twins escort him to an undisclosed location and share some of their past trauma with him. Moreover, they torture Slime by putting firecrackers up his ass's punishment, while another group of subordinates are seemingly struggling with their teleportation circle task. After a while, one of them spots Crimson and asks him why he's here. In response, Crimson acknowledges their struggles with this task and argues he can help them overcome this trial with his input. On the other hand, Ulto and the other superior dragons are discussing what they must achieve this plan of theirs to fulfill his promise, with Ultimate Tia Walt Kamui saying that he plans to take care of Ragnar and his friends himself, and Alto and him argued for a bit about it. After a while, Nebel intervenes and says that Ragnar and his pals will come to them on their own, and there is no need to worry about it. Seeing Nebel, Alto pray to Nebel for his maturity and tells Wallach to act more like him. Moreover, Ulto tells Ultimate Tia that he can count on her for the country-destroying phase of the plan. However, ULT doesn't plan on killing humans mercifully like Ultimate Tia wanted. Since Ultimate Tia started to break, Ultimate Tia says that she's fine with killing humans as long as Alto can get the job done to make sure everyone gets their jobs done. Terra interrupts, telling his comrades to fulfill their duties and not fail like the others they've lost along the way, while Ae asks Steria if Crimson was telling the truth about him and Ragnar defeating several superior dragons. In response, Steria tells Ae to pay a little mind to Crimson since she believes he likes spreading lies within his truthful statements. However, I bring up Crimson's claim about superior dragons being humans, and Steria confirms Crimson's claim by stating several soldiers working for her who have non-human traits. As Starlia confirms Crimson's claim, I am perplexed by this revelation. But Steria says it makes no difference if their enemies used to be humans, and it's important for him to give it his all in their upcoming fight and survive. While Crimson and Ragnar discuss whether Ragnar believes he has the power to defeat Wall Ui after analyzing himself, Ragnar says he may not be ready to fight him, and Crimson says he's happy to hear that considering Walu is a superior dragon who surpassed his limitations. All the while, Ae bumps into Fu, where Fu tells Ae that Crimson aided his group in making their magic circle better. At the same time, the twins arrive at Ragnar's cell with Slime, who appears bruised and battered. After a while, Crimson also shows up, and Ragnar tells him he's in his cell because it helps him remain calm. Additionally, Ragnar says he saved most of his silverine power for the upcoming fights to task Ragnar, and with one last task, Crimson tells Ragnar to swipe one of Steria's swords and infuse silverine into it and head deep underground to avoid suspicion from her soldiers. After a while, Crimson snaps Slime out of his depressive state and tells him to monitor Ragnar before Crimson can do some meddling. When Starl arrives, and he covers himself by saying that he's planning to take a nap and hasn't caused trouble after meeting up with Ragnar and Crimson. Steria tells Ragnar to follow her so he can choose a weapon. Following along, Steria says that she plans to stay with the Solarians after their upcoming battle, and to maintain peace, she plans to become a Solarian church member in Dragon Scourge. By doing so, Steria hopes the Solarians will protect her people. However, if she dies in the fight, wants Ragnar to become a Dragon Scourge and lead her people. Instead of hearing Steria's request, Ragnar declined Steria's offer, upsetting Steria to remind Ragnar of his words. Steria reminds Ragnar about his promise to follow her and says he will obey her orders. After a while, Ragnar infuses most of his silverine into each sword and tells Steria that he promises to keep her safe. On the other hand, Alto Zora and several dragons wreaked havoc in the royal palace after causing a stir in Alto and Terra arrive at Steria's base, where Terra attempts to infiltrate it but fails after the failed in an infiltration attempt. Ragnar came out of the base to face off with Terra as he walked coldly with two silverine swords in his hands, while Star's forces wait for Alto Zora's forces to enter their base. To their surprise, several humans enter the building and beg Starly's forces to protect them. As the leader, I recall Crimson's warnings about Alto's drug crafting and hypnotizing powers, and tells everyone to keep their guard up as the humans attack them after a while. Starly arrives and assists her comrades with the human threat during the commotion. She announces they should only protect the humans under their care and their fellow soldiers, and she deems everyone else a threat and will kill them herself if need be. Moreover, Steria entrusts them with the base's protection and asks Grahella, Chris, and Nazarena to accompany her to the forest elsewhere. Alto's thrilled by Star's resolve and can't wait to battle her soon, whereas Crimson remembers the superior dragon's talent and how it's measured by the length of their maturation. If it takes them a short amount of time to mature, then they'll become more powerful as a result of his fight with Ragna. Tor admits he lacks talent, but he makes up for it with the years of experience he attained when he was a human during their battle. Ragna notes, it's difficult for him to land a decisive blow on the Tora, and so he examines the Tora further and believes that he'll need to use a large amount of silverine to hurt him after a while. Ragna plans to channel all his power into his sword and hopes this will do the trick. Meanwhile, Grahella and members of the aerial unit patrol the forest from above, and they relay their findings to their comrades and note how they can't detect Two's whereabouts simultaneously, and the twins inform Steria that many dragons are heading near the bee's east entrance and might be anticipating their next move. In response, Steria says it's fine while Alto praise her forces for their effort against his human army. After a while, Alto checks on Tor because he's mildly concerned about him feeling that Alto was concentrating on him. Terra tells Alto not to fret since he believes that he defeated Ragna. However, Alto questions Tora further about Ragna to see if he is the Reaper who attacked Ultimate Tia, believing that Ultimate Tia won't be defeated by such a weakling Terra. Tor believes Ragna's not the same guy. However, he says the Reaper might be present on the battlefield somewhere to finish off Ragna. Tor, who tries to kill him, but Ragna awakens and evades his attack. Suddenly, inferior dragons arrive to weaken Ragna, but Tor argues Ragna is not a priority to him, and he feels these inferior dragons will be enough to defeat him after believing Ragna was just a weakling. Tora heads to Ulto and asks Ult for new orders to assign Tora with another job. Alto tells Tora says that he wants him to visit Steria's location and annihilate her and her forces with his cannon attack. Hearing that Steria was in trouble, Ragna tries stopping Tor, but he is overwhelmed by the inferior dragons combined. Might fortunately Shin and Garm arrive to lend him assistance and advice instead of thanking the two for with their help. Ragna tells them to scram and argues that he can handle the inferior dragons and Tora by himself, angering Shin, feeling insulted. Shin challenges Ragna to a duel to Ragna's surprise. At that very moment, Shin has a flashback in which he was dated 4 days prior to Ragna and Crimson's arrival at Steria's base. In his flashback, Steria informed her forces that they should avoid problems with the superior dragons. Apparently, Shin found Steria's methods cowardly, enticing Steria to put Shin in his place. Moreover, Steria announced her after the battle plans to her soldiers, and after a heartfelt discussion with a former comrade, Shin mentions that 120 soldiers decided to stay by Star's side. Back at the present, Shin gives Ragna a thoughtful speech about his and the others' reasons for fighting. Additionally, he tells Ragna that he doesn't care about his motives or his strength. After opening up to Ragna, Shin approaches Graham, and Graham updates him on their situation. Additionally, Graham says he'd like to continue assisting everyone in this fight and achieve higher strength. After arguing with Slime for a bit, Shin and Graham plan to stop Tor elsewhere. Steria plans to use her powers to turn the forest into her territory simultaneously with Steria's comrades. Update her on their findings and successes. On the other hand, Alto acknowledges Steria's strengths and realizes she's plotting something with a magic absorption circle. Additionally, Steria's plan reminds him of his Solarian days, and he reveals that the Solarians wanted to use the dragon's magic for battle purposes and find Steria's needs for it to be fascinating. Back at Steria, even though dragons don't emit auras, Steria can still recognize dragons because they appear as black masses to her. After a while, Steria realizes that Ult knows about her plan and she panics. In panic, Steria tells her troops to be on the lookout for abnormalities, and suddenly several dragons attack her and her squad during this assault. As the dragons continue their assault on Steria's forces, Ulto assumes that Steria's magic circle absorption range is 2 km, and he recalls nebulous warnings about a mage named Crimson with Great Barrier magic, and moreover, Ulto says that winning this war is meaningless if Steria manages to escape with her life intact to win this battle at all. Costs to plan to gain total control over Steria's magic teleportation circle. Near the barrier, I stood with his men as he was facing trouble, and his men were falling rapidly. Seeing the number of casualties within his men, he told his remaining troops to retreat during all the commotion. The ultimate tear makes her appearance in her dragon form, and everyone appears confused as they are not able to see any movement from Ultimate, but his men were falling as if Ultimate Ta was killing them during the confusion, and I suddenly realized that the dragon in front of him was actually controlling time. Just at that moment, Crimson hops into the line of fire with an orb-like flashbang, which works like a cheat code as it burns Ultimate after immobilizing Ultimate. Crimson reveals that he manipulated the orb's function so that it explodes when it senses time has stopped. Additionally, Crimson tells like that he supplied the humans he was protecting with weapons and a bunch of M16s because they wanted to join the fight. Although I'm not thrilled with Crimson's methods, he is forced to comply as he was their only hope. Crimson says that Alto knows about the next phase of their teleport plan and is plotting to deploy his human army around their base to ruin it to combat Alto's army. Crimson wants to pit his hypnotized forces against them elsewhere. Gorin is infuriated that he can't break through one of the base's barriers. Annoyed, he notices Fu nearby and asks him to take him to the magic circle. However, Fu refuses and decides to fight Gorin. Seeing Fu's stance, Gorin has a brief flashback of Steria arguing with Fu about the magic circle's magic requirement back. At the present defeats Gorin and steals his magic, while hilarious antics ensue between Fu and his comrades. Crimson watches and is impressed by Steria's force's strength. Suddenly strange things start happening in the area, and Crimson urges Fu and his comrades to follow him confused. Fu asks Crimson several questions, and Crimson tells him that he should focus on protecting the barrier, while Steria's forces battle with the mature dragons, whereas Alto is intrigued by Steria's strange battle tactics. However, the dragons pull a fast one on Steria, causing her to plummet to the ground. Steria down on the ground. Ulto praises Steria for her efforts, but acknowledges her inexperience before claims victory. TK Tor tells Alto that 3 men, namely Shin, Graham, and Ragna, have defeated a third of his army and say they should address that development. While Shin and Graham are seen as hesitant as they aren't sure if they'll prevail, but they start to note that Ragna is finally starting to sharpen his abilities and is getting comfortable with his power, but he doesn't know how long he can keep it going. However, to protect everyone from death, he'll do all he can to defeat the dragons simultaneously. Alto admits that he has miscalculated the situation to protect everyone, and Ragna slays numerous dragons within a blink of an eye, while one of Steria's troops rushes to her aid, and she orders the troops to take her northwest. During this time, Alto learns that Gorin and Platinum Tiara didn't achieve victory in battle, baffling him. Moreover, he thinks about Steria's forces and their true capabilities, and, baffled, he asks the Tora how long he will recuperate, and in response, he tells him that it won't take much time to counter Star's forces, develops a new strategy and relays it to T-Tora, with the plan in mind. T-Tora proceeds as normal and plans to blow everything up within 5 minutes, while Shin helps Ragna slay a dragon, and Ragna tells him not to interfere, but he retracts his order when he remembers Shin's words about not acting like a hero. Feeling like he was acting like a prick, Ragna apologizes to Shin and says Shin and Graham can fight the dragons in any way they want in return for Ragnar reveals that he plans to protect them and asks the two to follow his lead while following and slaying dragons. Under Ragna's lead, Shin and Graham reflect on how Ragna is influencing them when Ulto infects several mature dragons on Ragna and his allies as a counterattack. Ragna defeats them easily and swiftly, angering Shin because Ragna is not letting him or Graham partake in the hunt. However, Ragna tells the others to continue following him despite Shin's infuriation with him elsewhere. OS is enraged that Ragna and his allies are swiftly killing his forces additionally. Ulto is flustered by Starly's human forces and is curious about what type of weapons they're using. After brainstorming, Alto concludes that someone else is leading these humans against him, and he wonders if the same people who caused Ultimate TA and the other issues are present on the battlefield, while at the magic teleportation circle's location. Crimson has a brainwashed human repressed Fu and his allies. Seeing all of the force overwhelmed, Crimson tells them that he'll be taking over the magic circle now. Furthermore, Crimson reveals his intentions for the magic circle, which align with their needs for it. However, he doesn't want to bring along people he feels would be dead weight. Hearing Crimson's condition, Everyone starts agreeing with Crimson, but Fu realizes something's wrong with everyone and confronts Crimson about it to reassure Fu. Crimson assures Fu that nothing's wrong with his friends and everything is fine, while Alto wonders if Ragna's the Reaper since he knows the capital. A bombing person is here, and Alto contemplates if he should inform Wallach Kamui that the Reapers are here. Hesitates, because he knows Steria has allies who have things that rival superior dragons. Therefore, he'd be sending Walt to Chue to his death, while as Steria's troops take Steria northwest. Hela notices Gra devouring several mature dragons upon seeing Hela Gra hands Hela some dragon meat, and tells her that they're the only ones in their unit who survived. Powered up Hela and Grey, and plotted their revenge back at the magic teleportation circle, Crimson makes out with Fu, and suddenly, Fu realizes that he can't move as Crimson's voice is slowly infiltrating his mind. During this time, Crimson prattles on about wanting to be loved by many before he entices Fu to activate the magic circle for him. Before Fu activates the magic circle, Mao calls out to Fu and tells him not to obey Crimson suddenly. One of Crimson's men shoots Mao, causing everyone to panic. With panic arising, Fu tries to help Mao, but Crimson pins him to the ground as he realizes that his hypnosis magic is losing its hold on the others. Panicked Crimson threatens to kill the remaining Fat Tuesday if they don't comply and activate the circle, not wanting his friends to perish. Fu tells Crimson that he'll activate the circle. Suddenly Mao receives a power boost, shocking Crimson as Crimson orders the brainwashed humans to shoot at Mao. But their gunfire proves ineffective against her. To fight off Crimson, Mao uses her powers to teleport Crimson and his humans away from the circle. After stressing a lot of her powers, Meijo falls unconscious, and Fu and his friends rush to her aid. Meanwhile, Crimson and his humans fall from the sky, and he can't believe that Meijo has teleportation magic inside her body. Upset that he lost an opportunity to obtain notable troops under his leech, Crimson and his brainwashed humans fall from the sky as they are moments away from splatting onto the ground. On the other hand, Alto Zora still contemplates if it's a great idea to have Wallach Kamui arrive on the battlefield or not. At that very moment, he wonders why the Reaper Ragna and his affiliate Crimson are helping Steria's forces. Confused, he speculates several things Crimson could gain from supporting Steria's forces. Ultimately, Alto believes that he is competing in a race with Crimson to see who can achieve their goal first. With a race in mind, Alto is convinced that he will kill Steria before Crimson can accomplish his goal, while Crimson lies on the ground. Powerless with his body on the ground, Crimson hopes Ragna can escape with commendable allies and that Steria perishes in the battle. All the while in the battle between Steria's group and Alto's mature dragons, the commander is still holding Steria on his back, and he encourages the remaining troops to continue fighting. After regrouping with the commander, and the twins provide these soldiers with aid, and Steria hopes they can continue overwhelming the dragons as she is being transported, and Steria recalls Crimson's words to her about why she shouldn't underestimate superior dragons. While the twins examine the battleground where Ragna fought, Tarot and Steria ponder other things. Crimson relayed to her concern for Toto's ability and its range. With this intel, Steria feels that she has narrowed down Alto's location. On the other hand, Alto raises his dragon armies insane levels with his powers. Although they'll be useless to him in 10 minutes, he feels they'll get the job done in due time. And Alto speculates how Steria will deal with this is in insanity levels, while Steria and her forces power up and head for Alto's location as they plan to hit him with an attack they used to defeat a past superior dragon. After realizing someone was closing on him, Alto gets up from his seat and starts spreading a deadly toxin in the air as Steria and her troops draw closer to him. Receives an image in his mind of a human female named Lakusa, and suddenly Nazarena appears behind Alto and chops off his head and the arm he was using to spread the deadly toxin. However, Alto remains unfazed by Nazarene as an attack, making her question what was happening before. Her eyes were confused. Nazarena leaves Alto alone as she feels she's done her part in this. The war with Alto's location compromised Steria, and her allies rushed to Alto's location as she was satisfied with Nazar's attempt since it convinced her to tell the others not to go through with their ultimate attack. Steria senses the real Zora is 100 meters underground, and using her powers, she drags Alto onto the surface and tells Chris says that she's counting on him, while Alto ponders his human life and the time he spent with Lucia as Alto Purse has this strange sensation he's feeling, and Tor warns him about the forest's elevated magic levels. Additionally, he warns Alto not to let the dragons enter the forest. Suddenly, the forest dragons arise from the ground and start gobbling humans. Seeing this, Alto mentions that he can't control them but realizes that the forest dragons are attacking his enemies too. After a while, Alto realizes that Borgias has regained his abilities and was trying to help them in the war. However, Alto yells at Borgias for interfering in his war with Steria, but he revokes his statement because he feels he is about to do something stupid, while Ragna, Graham, and Shin continue slaughtering more dragons, seeing them eliminate the dragons. Tor attacks them with his armed cannon and tells Alto that he annihilated them with his attack after using his armed cannon. Tor asks Alto for an update on Steria's condition. Using his eye, Alto spots Steria lying on the ground but tells Tor a lie about her status, while Alto doesn't know why he's doing this and tells Tor to keep an eye on Ragna as he uses this opportunity to contemplate his strange after a while. Ult approaches Steria's unconscious body and questions the decisions he's made in the battle. Far afterwards, he contemplates his human existence with his human subordinates and Lucia. During this moment, we learned that Walti Kamui had actually murdered Lucia and Alto and became one of the superior dragons afterwards. Seeing Steria, Alto sees a resemblance between Princess Lavandia and Princess Steria. Moreover, Alto states how everything he lost during that time resurfaced through this fight. After a while, he tells Steria that he adores their battle and praise her and her troops for their effort in a flashback. Crimson had informed Steria about Lucha's leadership skills, and Alto's human past ultimately tells Crimson to tell Steria not to give up during her fight with Alto since their resolve will slowly drive him insane. After a while, Alto asks Steria to join the Blood of the Wing, but Steria responds and admits that Alto bested her in many categories. However, she informs Alto about one area she beats him in. Suddenly, Steria unleashes her forging arts attack on Alto, which forces him against a tree to protect Steria, which several soldiers retrieve. Steria's body, and Chris removes the weapon she used to penetrate Alto's body after Chris wielded the sword activates her thought union technique to communicate with her remaining troops, and she requests everyone to send their energy to the silverine weapon Chris was wielding. Using the weapon, Chris throws this weapon at Tora and Alto tells Tora to watch out. Instead of dodging the weapon, Tora fires his cannon at it, which results in a massive after the explosion cleared up. Thanks to Osora, Tor only suffered a minor injury, but in that very instant Ragna jumped in to grab the weapon Chris had thrown, while Shin awakened in a water-like bubble. Confused, Shin observed Ragna from within the bubble as Ragna grabs Chris's blade and fires his hunting flash attack at Tor spectating from afar. Ult mourns as Tora finally dies from the attack. However, before dying, Tor tells Alto that he blew himself up to avoid dying in stride from Ragna's attack. Seeing that Tor still had some energy, Alto blames himself for giving Tora false information, but Tora tells him not to worry about it. Additionally, he says that they should focus on developing a strategy that will help them prevail in this war with Steria. Before dying, starts to have a flashback of the time when he was a human, revealing that he was alongside Alto, and they both had ties to Princess Louisa. Simultaneously reflects on his long-standing relationship with Tito and hopes he can for him to give him upon Tor's request. Alto tells Tor to use his remaining life force to blow himself and ensure Steria and the others' deaths before the enormous explosion. Alto makes his escape, and after ensuring that Alto had exited his blast radius, Tor explodes to prevent the blast from obliterating everything. Ragna tries holding the blast back with his silverine freeze despite Slime providing Ragna with aid. Ragna realizes that Tor's explosion is too much for him, and from afar, Steria wonders if Ragna can prevent the BL from hitting them. After speculating for a while, Steria realizes that her sword might be holding Ragna back and starts blaming herself for it. Additionally, she ponders all the soldiers she lost and those who survived during this war to help out Ragna in stopping the blast. Steria uses her abilities to lend Ragna more power as she wants to prevent more casualties from dying after a while, and she informs Ragna that she has troops protecting her while she's performing this duty. Although Tarot's strength overpowers them, Steria and Ragna turn up the heat, and finally, they neutralize Tarot. Tor's attack. After neutralizing Tor's blast, Steria realizes that the current Ragna is strong because of his future counterpart, and she shares her concerns for future Ragna since Ragna had lended a lot of power from his future self. In response to current Ragna, thanks Steria for worrying about future Ragna, whereas Steria thanks Ragna for his help and pleads with him to abandon Crimson and join her army before Ragna could reply. Ragna faints, whereas Chris and the others check up on Steria, and she's thankful that the war is concluded. After resting some time for Fu's comrades tell him the magic teleportation circle is ready to use, whereas Ragna awakens after a long time knocked out. Before humans celebrate their victory against Tito, Terra while Kamui arrives and murders Steria and her forces afterwards, while Kamui turns his attention to Ragna and prepares to throw hands while Kamui clash. We receive a flashback with Ragna and Crimson, where Crimson informs Ragna about Walti Cam's powerful Six Claws and Twin Fong's demon sword. Additionally, he informs Ragna about the Clawed bloodline who are tied together through swords and combat arts, adding that an outlaw murdered one of them in the past and stole one of the demonic swords. Adding on that, he reveals that Waltimu was an outlaw and that he murdered someone in his human past and stole one of the demonic swords. Moreover, Crimson warns Ragna that he shouldn't get involved with Wallama and only fight him once Ultimate Ta dies. Despite Crimson's warnings, Ragna says now I'd win and immediately gets humbled as Walter Kamui forces him onto the ground, feeling hopeless. Ragna starts to dream as he finds himself in an alternate dimension with Steria, who begs him to wake up as Ragna finally awakens. Steria tells him that she's the real deal. Additionally, she says she and the others successfully teleported away to this strange environment because of the magic teleportation circle. After they both strolled for a while, Steria stopped and tells Ragna to go on without her, and Steria says that she must create a strong sword called the Silver Comet, even if this results in her death. Wants to assure Ragna that this sword will be of use to him since Ragna refuses to leave Star's side, and suddenly the ground erupts under Ragna's feet, causing him to fall after spending 2 days unconscious. Ragna wakes up and finds himself with bandages wrapped around his body. Although Steria may be gone, Ragna says he can still feel her aura within himself. After exiting his camp, Ragna notices Chris Fu and the others are around him. Moreover, Ragna heads outside and notices that he's on the Solaran church grounds after a while. Ragna meets up with A as it takes him to meet with someone important. After a while, Ragna hears Ultimate Ta's voice and he attacks subconsciously, but the women's lookalikes appear as they start to introduce themselves as the dragon. Scourge of the Solarian Church. After reviving the dragon Scourge leader Kerala Ragna had killed, she forgives Ragna, since they all knew Ragna's hatred for Ultimate Ta was immense after seeing that they had time reversal abilities. Ragna asks her if she can use her time powers to save Steria's life. In response, she reveals that she can, but she is against it because it uses too much energy and she feels saving Steria is a waste of time. Hearing her response, Ragna says if she kills A, he'll kill her in her copus instead of resorting to violence. Ragna, AE, and Kara decide to chat on top of one of the area buildings. During their discussion, Nazarena reveals herself to be a member of the Soren Church, whose purpose was to convert Steria into a member, and she was to kill Steria if she refused to join the Solarian Church. However, since Nazarena failed to kill Steria after her refusal to join the church, Nazarena was awaiting to hear from her higher-ups about her punishment as soon as Nazarena took her leave of the leader of the dragon. Scourge invites Ragna and asks if he'd like to become a dragon. Without any hesitation, Ragna immediately declines, and upon his refusal, Kara blackmails him by saying that she will transport Steria's army back to Earth. Enraged, Ragna destroys their meeting table and says that she will take in the refugees, and in return, he will kill Ultimate Ta. After the meeting is over, Ragna departs with Slime, and the two enter one of the buildings far away to meet up with Crimson. Upon meeting Crimson, Crimson shows Ragna the key to another dimension while saying that he will heal Ragna after entering the hidden dimension that Crimson had restored. Crimson says that he wants to focus on building up a proper team centered on Ragna's Silverine capabilities and the fact that they can't make their next move until the Globe Chamber is restored in 3 years. Hearing that they have to wait for 3 years, Ragna says they should defeat Ultimate TA now, and they shouldn't delay it. However, Crimson remains firm and says they will defeat Ultimate Ta later, as he believes that Steria has already passed away. Believing that Steria was still alive, Ragna tells Crimson says that Steria is alive and they should hurry despite Crimson thinking otherwise. Despite Golem's warning, Ragna does not back down, and before taking his leave, he thanks Crimson for giving him the key, but before he could even depart, he succumbed to the poison Crimson had ordered him to drink when they first joined teams. Essentially, Crimson told him if he took this toxin, he couldn't rebel against him. Seeing Ragna fall, Crimson laughs at Ragna's idiocy, but she gets the shock of her life when she sees Ragna stand back up in an instant, determined to save Steria. Ragna apologizes for his betrayal, but Crimson doesn't care and now wants to kill him to immobilize Ragna. Chimera tries attacking Ragna, but he swiftly stops her after humbling both Crimson and Chimera. Ragna informs him about his future self's first encounter with him. Apparently, during this encounter, future Ragna realized Crimson's body lacked a heart after he murdered him as Ragna departs from the base. Crimson heads to one of his base's rooms to rest. Meanwhile, Ragnar returned to the Argentum Corps base and stumbled upon Eikshin, Chris, and the others with everyone together. Ragnar reveals that Starly is alive, while Camwi and Steria are seen in a room where Waltii grabs Steria and shows her that Alto Zora left a poison mark on her body. Therefore, if she attempts to leave the capital, or if Ragna and her allies get near her, the poison will activate and kill her. Moreover, Waltii prattles on about Alto and the wounds Ragna inflicted on him during their fight. On the other hand, Ultimate prays to her deity as she vows to destroy their enemies and restore their powers. Additionally, she hopes God will speak with her again after a while. After Borg's completed his metamorphosis, he becomes a being named the Elder, and he enters the area, asking Ultimate what she and God were discussing. Then Elder and Ultimate discuss Steria's forces and Ragna and the likelihood of their arrival after a while. Elder interrogates Nebel and asks him why he's not responding to his telepathic messages regarding the sun's disappearing debacle. Nebel confirms he's responsible for the sun's actions because he wants to see if he can create a space that remains in the night. Nebel's efforts are praised by Elder, who praises Nebel and says he's willing to let him continue his project and leave Ultimate TA in his care, returns to Steria, who reveals that she is not afraid to die but promises to forge a sword that'll overcome Waltisi's claws elsewhere. Ae asks Fu for an update regarding the teleportation circle's progress in response. Fu says it'll take him some time, so in the meantime, he visits Kerala and asks if she can provide them with magic support since Ultimate Ta's demise was a common goal. Kerala accepts to lend them a hand, but she demands the magic absorption circle's formula and a sample of Ragna, Fu, and Mao's blood. Moreover, Kara reveals that if she feels skeptical about a force's course of action, she will stop them if she feels they have no chance of victory. On the other hand, a snake enters Crimson's room to check on him and finds Crimson still shaken up by Ragna's remarks. Moreover, Snake, and informs Crimson about Borgias and his ploy to sacrifice his life. Adding on, he reveals that if Borgias pulls this off, then Snake and Crimson will be the final members of the old Y bloodline. After hearing the Snake, Crimson pulls up a virtual map, and upon seeing the nebula's barrier, he wonders if the Ultimate is still incapable of controlling time, realizing the situation might be in their favor. Crimson tells everyone to prepare for battle as he decides to use Ragna and Steria's army as distractions to kill Ultimate Ta, while Nazarena and I share their belief that Steria is in the Palace District. Along with the Winged Monarch's Ultimate hearing that the group was focused on Steria, Kara states that they should focus on killing Ultimate TA first since if they do defeat her, then the remaining superior dragons will fall. After a while, Ragna shares his desire to take Wall to Kima head-on. Later, Ike tells everyone that they will initiate their plan in 2 days, and in the meantime, he hopes everyone will prepare. Meanwhile, Graham and Ragna have a quick sparring session. After sparring for a while, both warriors acknowledge each other's strength and growth. Although Ragna is happy with the strength he was gifted, he argues it's difficult for him to feel proud of it since he hadn't worked insanely hard to acquire it. After a while, Graham informs Ragna about one of the maneuvers he saw him perform during their battle with Tor, and he admits that he imitated his tactic and successfully pulled it off even though his feat weren't on par with Ragna's. Graham is still proud of what he achieved, and he asks Ragna to continue leading them down a brighter path by showing them his strength after a while, as everyone prepared to teleport back to Earth. Fu initiated the magic circle, whereas the Dragon Scourge sacrificed themselves to initiate a time control magic countermeasure like a spell. Apparently, this will enable Ike and the others to act within the stop time. However, they only have 3 minutes to do so, according to Kerala, as the Dragon Scourge members die one after another. Kerala gives them a heartfelt speech before Ragna and the Steria forces are teleported back to the capital awaiting for the humans to return. Yuelti Tura and the Elder confront Steria's forces, whereas Ragna decides to fight Wall Tuamwi, while Nebel senses Crimson and his entourage have arrived on the scene. Upon arriving at the battlefield, Crimson realizes that Ultimate TAA hasn't stopped time and concludes that it's possible that she can't stop time, and suddenly, Elder transforms into his dragon form as he tells his enemies that he will crush them back to Ragna. Ragna confronts Walti Kimu, and upon seeing Steria, he rushes over to Steria's side, while Alto tells Steria's army that Steria will perish soon regardless if they defeat him back to Ragna. Ragna is horrid to see. Steria poisons her whole body, although she successfully forged the silver comet sword for Ragna. For him, it won't assist him in combating Wall's claw since she was a failure till the end. For the sake of Steria, Ragna promises Steria that he'll defeat Walt Camwy with her sword. After giving Steria and Ragna the time to chit-chat with, Walu finally returns back to the battlefield, and they immediately clash swords. After battling for a while, Ragna is able to pierce Waltemu's humanic body, and he entices Wam to transform into his dragon form while Chima and another ally confronted the elder Ragna, and Walti sees battle intervened with theirs. Noticing Chimera and her ally are in danger, Ragna lends the two a hand by freezing the elder's face. Following Ragna's aid, Wallach Camwy attacks Ragna, pushing him away from the battlefield, although the elder is immobilized by Ragna Silverine. Dragon form sprouts new heads, while Star's forces overwhelm Osora with their combined might. Despite having the upper hand, Steria forces morale to dwindle briefly. Seeing this opportunity, Alto wonders if he'll ever achieve Tor's level of strength. With the thought of his deceased comrade flowing through his mind, Alto transforms into a more muscular and capable dragon, while Ragna and Walt Kimu take their duel to outer space, whereas Nazarena and Steria observe the battle from afar, seeing Nazarena by her side. Steria tells Nazarena to leave her be and assist the others, with the dragons hearing Steria. Nazarena recall her first encounter with Steria when she was younger. Although Nazarena acknowledged Star's disabilities, she mentions that Star is still around because others see value in her peculiar powers. After the flashback, Nazarene departs and plans to assist the others with the dragons. On the other hand, Nebel senses Crimson nearby and Spec waltz that Crimson was after Ultimate Ta. Although initially Nebel isn't worried, Crimson starts to breach through the nebulous barrier, causing him to panic before the nebulous is able to counter it. Slime appears next to him and absorbs him, killing him in the process. Meanwhile, Crimson infiltrates and appears behind, and Ultimate, using his last breath, calls out to Ultimate, alerting him of Crimson's panic. Crimson uses his firearm and his device to prevent Ultimate Ta's time manipulation powers from interfering with his ploy to counter Crimson. Ultimate Ta transforms into a dragon. Seeing Ultimate Ta transform, Crimson has a flashback to the time when he held a civil discussion with other versions of himself regarding Ragna and what he had said to him. Afterwards, Crimson grabbed his heart and placed it inside his body, causing him to transform into his new state. Crimson uses his various weapons to fight Ultimate Ta hidden before Crimson can deal a decisive blow to her. Ultimate Ta unleashes a powerful attack, engulfing the room in a large explosion. Meanwhile, Stera's forces battle with Ulto, and after Alto murders most of Stera's army, he turns his attention toward A and tries murdering him. Fortunately, Fu protects A from Alto's assault as Fu injects himself with a concoction, allowing him to attain powers that are on par with the dragons despite putting in a decent effort against Alto. Fu gets knocked into a nearby gap. To protect Fu from getting hurt, I jump in and save Fu from falling into the gap. All the while, Ulto Zora tries to stop him, but several Stars' army thwarts his efforts. Seeing that I could come to his rescue, Fu thanks A for saving him and tells A to hold off Ulto with the others. Moreover, Fu reveals his plan to use all the magic he absorbed from Alto to defeat him as they discussed. Chris interrupts their conversation and tells A to tend to Fu's needs as he steps into to hold off Alto. As Chris steps in to fight, Alto is the leader of Steria's army. Chris has a flashback in which he reflects on his experiences with his mother and her obsession with royalty and how it drove her to madness. After his mother's passing, Chris turned into a mercenary and opted for illegal missions because those motivated him more, and one of Christopher's missions involved him holding his own against a mature dragon. Due to this mission of Chris caught Steria's attention, and after Steria praises Chris for his efforts, Chris is hired by Steria. Back at present, Chris gives it his all in the fight. After a while, and Fu attack Alto together, causing him severe pain as Alto was on death's doorstep. Alto wishes he could give Steria's army a better reward for defeating him than his life as Alto was dying, tells Alto that he holds no regrets, and I kill Ulto as Ulto dies, thinking of his fallen comrades after delivering the final blow. Ike is aided by Nazarene, aware as Fu takes his last breath fighting alongside his comrades, and Nazarena also reveals that Steria had passed away too. Back to Crimson. Crimson realizes that it could be a pain fighting Ultimate Ta since she has a lot of magical prowess, and hence she switches to a more psychological attack approach. During Crimson's fight Ultimate, Ta has a flashback about the Solarian frontline base 17. Apparently, in this base, many Kerala copies and workers were tending to fall into soldiers' needs while Kerala was tending to people's needs. Kerala greets her. Apparently, the Kerala we've been following happens to be the youngest of the batch, and our Kara informs the leader, Kerala, of that time that she was expedited to this base because they needed more Kerala recruits. Suddenly, the leader, Kerala, grows old and starts withering due to her immense effort in helping one of their patients. Before she passes, the leader, Kara, notices our Kara's sorrow about her passing and finds it strange since Kerala copies didn't. Moreover, she assigns AR Kerala as the leader of the Kulas while Erala wanders the base, the man the leader Kerala had saved him. Thanks to her for saving him, even though she wasn't the one who saved him, she decides to take credit for her leader's effort back at the present during Chima and her allies' fight against the Elder. Notices the barrier surrounding the battlefields falling down, giving Chimera and her ally a chance to hurt him while screaming in pain. Nebel appears in the Elder's mind. In the Elder's mind, Nebel tells the Elder that he is counting on him to win this fight and apologizes that he couldn't live up to his expectations, saddened by Nebel's death. Elder transforms into a shadowy beast, and he murders Chimera and her ally in an instant. Moreover, to protect Ultimate upon Nebel's request, he proceeds to teleport to the castle and potentially murder Slime. Seeing the Nebel skeleton on the ground, the Elder kneels before Nebel's decrepit remains and mourns meanwhile, before Crimson could deliver the final blow to Ultimate with his firearm. The space they were fighting in cracks, taking the two by surprise as the space cracked. The Elder intervenes between Crimson and Ultimate T's battle, and he tells Ultimate TAA to come by his side because he can't reach their location to prevent Ultimate escape. Crimson chases her, while Chimera reflects on her partnership with the snake, and although the snake is a part of the Chimera's body, Chimera questions how he knows Crimson better than herself in the present. The snake asks Chimera to switch with him, making the snake receive a physical body after transforming into a humanic form. The Elder immediately attacks Snake, but Snake counters his attack with a suicidal attack called the World Collapse. Due to this attack alone, the Elder, Crimson, and Ultimate Ta all get damaged. Additionally, it forces Crimson and Ultimate Ta out of their respective spatial battlefields with his hand chopped off. Crimson confronts Snake about his tactic, and Snake apologizes for using it. Moreover, the Elder returns to his human form and starts burning up due to the sun. Seeing that after his death, only one superior will be alive, calls out to Walt Kamui, informing him that he's the only one left who can protect the Ultimate. To end, the Elder arrives and delivers the final blow to the Elder after dealing with the Elder along with two of his comrades' heads. In the meantime, Ragna is still in an ongoing battle with Walu, but after a while, Ragna starts to overwhelm seeing that he was getting beaten. Walti decides to rely on a dormant power to defend himself against Ragna's might. Simultaneously, Ultimate Ta gets up and murders one of Ike's comrades. To end, Ultimate Nazarena stabs Ultimate's head with her sword, causing her to unleash a barrage of energy blasts. Suddenly, Walti Kamui unleashes his lighting god battle arts technique, causing everyone on Earth to fall to the ground due to the immense pressure from it. In desperation, Ultimate looks up at the sky and calls out to Walt Ci. During the battle, Walt Ci has a flashback involving an entity called Gilia. The Clawed Monarch apparently said Walt Kamui had tried attacking Gilia but failed to damage her and instead got himself slashed 8 times. Moreover, seeing Walt Kam's attempts to kill her Gilia, she says that she's arrived because she wants to see what Walt Kam's sword is capable of. However, before leaving, she beheads Walt Chue and tells him that the people who cut her received the same punishment in return since Walt Kamui was extremely talented. Gilia grabbed his severed head, praised him, and told him to fight strong opponents in order to grow stronger than ever before. Back at the present, Walti Kamui remembers Gil's words and starts to transform into a stronger being to match his strong opponent. While Walu overwhelms Ragna with his new transformation, Crimson crawls over to his severed arm and gun, while Slime wanders over to Hazel, but Crimson asks Slime to come to him, but suddenly a spark of light engulfs the battlefield. Back to Ragna. Wallach Camus is finally able to behead Ragna, and he states that he plans to kill Gilia, and the dragon god suddenly engulfs the battlefield with his light and reattaches his head, while Ultimate reminisces about her past experience as a Kerala copy, and she recalls the time when she was one of the oldest Kulas at their frontline base. Apparently, during that time someone had crashed at the frontline base, and the person who crashed into their base turned out to be a young Walti Kamui. After crashing onto the base, Walti Kamui told Ultimate Ta that all of her Kerala subordinates disgusted him and asked her to get out of his sight. Seeing that Walu was Ultimata, Ta promised to heal Wal If he let her heal one of her clones, since Walu was a short-tempered brat, he threatened to kill Ultimate if she didn't leave, and started to charge up after Ultimate Ta made a run for it, while Kamui collapsed, and Ultimate Ta also slipped down the stairs, remembering that while CI had called her easily replaceable since her clones would take her place. After her death, Ultimate Ta got up and returned to Walt Kamui. Seeing Ultimate Ta returning, Walt Kamui killed Ultimate Ta, but she reverses time to revive, and she heals Kula's clones and Wal's wounds. Seeing that Ultimate was unique from the other clones, ever since then, Walamo accompanied Ultimate everywhere she went. Back at the present, Ultimate Tia calls out to Walu once more. Hearing Ultimate is the Stro call for help towards Ragna to kill him and return back to Ultimate Ta as soon as he can. Within a flash, Ragna is slain by Wal's blade, and takes a hellish beating before getting beheaded in the attack. However, Ragnar reattaches his head and hits Walu with a hunting flash, while Ultimate, on the verge of death, calls out to Walt Kamui, who fires up all his senses as he attacks head-on towards Ragna during the battle. While Kamui keeps on having flashes of Gilia in front of him from afar, Gilia stood, saying that Ragna had finally reached a level of strength that is capable of beating her after a while. Ragna hits Walu with his twin hunting flash, and due to the consecutive nature of this attack, while Toy is caught off guard, and he dies in the process before completely disappearing. He tosses his blade towards Ultimate Ta as he apologizes to her for not being able to repay his debt to her as Walu disappeared. Ragna fell back to earth, and he fell face first to the ground. Seeing that all of her superior dragons had been slain by the Ultimate TAA starts to panic as she screams for the time to stop. After a desperate attempt to stop time, the time does stop moving, and due to this, she realizes her powers have finally returned. Turning her powers back, she finally rejoices for a little bit, but before she is able to turn back time once more, one of the twins comes in clutch as she guns down Ultimate using Crimson's pistol, which contains silverine-laced bullets. After killing off Ultimate has a final flashback about the time when she was with young Walu on top of a cliff's edge. Apparently, young Walu had asked Ultimate as Kerala about what she wants in return as a way of paying her back, as he was in debt to her at this time. A PCT is formed between them to free Kerala from God. Back at the present, and near-death Ultimate is seen walking towards Walu's sword with bullets in her chest as she remembers her time in the Soren Church, where she was labeled as a product number 19835. Apparently, she was exceptionally talented even with limited time and experience amongst all the copies. Moreover, one day all of her clones had gone berserk, and the church blamed her as someone who doesn't believe in the sun god, and her relationship with Walty Kamui as a factor for the church's losses. With Walt Kamui in prison, they plan on killing him and all the berserk copies of Kerala. Just at that moment, True Dragon God makes an appearance from Ultimate TAA and W to Kamui as she creates Ultimate, the winged monarch of the Dragon God. Back at the present, as Ultimate crawled, she begs God for a second chance, but soon learns that she is no longer needed as she starts to burn in the sunlight while remembering Wamu's words that helped her live more than she could after learning that she was moments away from dying. She tries making her way towards the shade of Walt Siamu's blade, but she burns away before reaching there. Spectating Ultimate Ta's death, Crimson lets her dragon's fused body burns as he places her heart back in captivity behind the four barriers and sighs about the horrible victory, with the cries of one of the alive twins echoing, while Ragna meets up with his future self, asking if he regrets his action. In response, current Ragna shows no regret, but the loss of his friends does make him very. As Ragna sat alone, Crimson appeared, asking about how he was doing, and since Ragna was held in a chamber, Crimson tells him to leave, and he takes him to a hospital room, where he meets unconscious Steria. Upon reaching in the hospital, Ragna learns that Steria's poison is healed, and that the reason she was fighting to live onwards was none other than Ragna. With Steria on the hospital bed, he reminisces about all his fallen comrades before meeting with Shin. Outside the hospital, after saying his goodbyes to Shin, he reveals that he is off to hunt the next bloodline as he sets off again with Crimson and Slime on a journey to end all dragons. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel.